Hello, my name is Casper Hansen, and today we're going to try to tie one of the last couple of years' most popular and most used flies in Scandinavian salmon waters, the Flashwing salmonfly. I'm going to tie it in the version I use, in a red variant where I put in a lot of different flash, and I'll show you how I do it. At first we're gonna prepare the tube. I use a clear plastic tube, and I put on a few beads, just brass beads. I pick out 2 today. I can change the weight of the fly and the size of the fly depending on how many and how heavy beads I use. At first I'm just gonna burn a little color on my tubing. Just like that. I picked out 2 these fluo orange brass beads that goes well with the rest of the color of the fly. I use a little bit of super glue just to make them stay. Just a little drop there. Then pull it up here. Just gonna let it dry. I like to burn a little color on the plastic tubing in front of the beads as well. I can use that later on when I finish the fly, because I can tie up against that. I maybe leave 8 millimeters in front of the beads. When I tie in these flash wings, they tend to build up a little bit, so I have to make a little bit of space here to finish the fly nicely. The reason why I do this, put it in and out of the flame, is that I don't want to burn it too much at first, but slowly make a nice color with no bubbles or anything in it, like this. I use these flat wings a lot during the early season. It's been very popular in Norway, very effective in Denmark as well, in different sizes, different colors. But it's a really nice fly for the early fishing. It's an easy fly to make in a big version, and it's an easy fly to fish because it doesn't soak a lot of water in, so it doesn't get too heavy to cast. As soon as you pick it out of the water, it leaves all the extra water behind, because the flash doesn't soak the water. Okay, I use an orange thread, and I just tied it in on the plastic tubing. At first I tie an underwing or kind of a tail. I use these fluo fibers. Almost all of this fly is built up with synthetic materials. And because of that, I have to make sure that I tie them in a way where they'll stay. Synthetics can be a little bit more slippery, so I often use the technique where I fold it back, and I'll show you that now. I take these fluo orange fluo fibers, take a bunch, tie it in the middle, like this. and then I just fold it back. Make sure it doesn't fall down on the side, but I just help it a little bit so it tapers nicely and it's not just falling out on one side. Now I just taper the tail a little bit, and I like to brush it first because then I get all the fibers separated, and I take my scissor and then I cut a nice taper. Depending on the size of the fly, I can make the tail longer or shorter so it fits what I want to do. But this seems quite alright. And as I said, these synthetics are quite slippery, so I have to use, and I like to use, a bit of super glue whenever I tie them in. So I just put a little drop here. So now I'm sure it won't go anywhere. That's the first part of the fly. I can use different colors of tails or underwings, and it makes the color of the fly a little bit more strong depending on what I use. Now I'm going to tie in and make the underwing first. I use different kinds of flash. This is the star flash, and my underwing is going to be the biggest bunch. I'm going to pick out this bunch, and then I'm going to mix it with some other flash types. I use some holographic in the red color. Gonna put it here on the table as well. I think it's much easier to control the flash when I put it down on the table first, and then afterwards I'm gonna pick it up and blend it in my hand. The third one I'm gonna use is this angel hair, HD angel hair, where I pick out a nice bunch of those as well. Now I have my underwing material, but I just put it on top of each other, and I want it to mix much more. So now I have it in my hand, and I'm just gonna try to both mix it and pull it a little bit so that I get a nice taper. When I do this in my hands, I don't have to cut in the wing as much when the fly is finished. I think this is an easier way to do it. But when you do these flash wings, I like to have the opportunity to take my scissor and just help get the look in the fly that I want. That's much more difficult when you use natural materials like fox hair or something like that. You can't cut the wing afterwards. My underwing, as I said earlier, is the biggest bunch with the most flash fibers in. When I tie in my overwing, it's going to be a little bit thinner, but also longer. So the underwing has to do the thing that it lifts up the wing as well. I like to make a little bit of a taper. So I pull a few of the fibers in the middle, a little bit longer. Now I think I have a nice mix here. I just check that maybe I have a few very short ones. I pull them a little bit. Yeah, I think this would work. Now I set up the wing here and see, okay, what length do I want it in? I want it maybe a little bit longer than the fluoro fiber on the wing. Like this, yeah. I change it to my left hand and then I hold it like this because I want to cut it straight here. Like that. If I'm gonna tie a lot of these, I just put down the bunch that I already prepared, let it leave it here, and then I can use it for my next flies. Then I get the same bunch and the same volume in the flies. I take it now over to my right hand. I have this little bit that I'm gonna tie in, and then I'm gonna fold it back. I put it on top here, and it can be a little bit helpful just to make sure there is maybe 5 millimeters or something. I can always pull them a little bit more back. These flash fibers tend to fold over a little bit and fall over to one side. So I have to make sure that I get them on top of the tubing. Now I think it sits quite well. Then I fold it back. The reason why I do this is because I want to tie it in as strong as possible, but also when I get this part here, you won't be able to see that on the finished fly, but it will make the wing lift a little bit more, which I like very much. So I fold the wing back, pull back quite hard, and put on thread here. Then I just check that it sits where I want it to. Seems like it does. And then again, because it is quite slippery material, I put in a little drop of super glue just where I tied it in. Now it won't go anywhere. And then if I have a few fibers that won't maybe sit like I want them to, I can just cut them out or cut them a little bit so that I get the taper that I want. But I think this looks quite all right. Now I tie in the first hackle. For this fly I use 3 hackles in matching colors, and I tie in an orange one first, which will match the underwing and the body nicely. Pull back the fibers here, have maybe 2 centimeters of hackle stem here. Then I tie them in. Like this on the underside. I use my knife here just to press all the fibers on one side of the hackle, and then I turn it. One turn here on the point where I tie in, and one turn here down on the plastic tubing. secure the hackle like that. Now I'm gonna make the overwing, and it's gonna be a little bit thinner than the underwing. If the underwing is like maybe 60 or 65%, the overwing will be 40, maybe 35% of the volume. So a little bit thinner, but also a little bit longer. And when I make this thin, long wing, it will swim really nice in the current. Again, I use the star flash, I use a little bit of holographic flashy-brew, and I use a bit of this angel hair. Put it all on the table, pick it up, and then I'm just gonna mix it in my hand. And while mixing it, I also try to do a little bit of tapering. I just pull it out a bunch of fibers, put it back on top, while I just twist the bunch a little bit in between my fingers. So when I do this maybe 6, 8, 10 times, I get a nice mixed wing. And then if I get like a fiber like this, that it's a little bit too curly, I just pull it out and leave it. Then I start to taper the wing. I just pull a little bit in the middle, try to make it longer. I want this overwing to be nice and long, to be able to swim really nice in the current. I have the underwing that will lift it up, and I have the hackles that will make this drop form. So with a nice taper on the overwing, I'll get a really nice fly that will swim really good. Just check that the fibers are tapering nicely throughout the wing, all the way down. Seems like they're doing that now. And then I'm gonna put it up, measuring it a little bit here. Okay, I want it a few centimeters longer than the underwing. Remember, if I get it too long, I can always cut it a little bit at the end. But I try to make it the way I want it at first. I think this looks okay. Nice length. So here is the length that I want. Put it in between my fingers like this and cut it off straight like that. And then if I'm gonna tie one more, I already have a ready wing here. I turn it so I get it turned in my hand. So now I have the wing here, and I can tie it in this way, so when I fold it back, it will sit very good. Make sure that the tubing everything is in position, and then I just gonna twist my thread a little bit to make it stronger. Put down 1, 2 soft ones, and just as you maybe could see, it have a tendency to pull down on the side, so I just pull it back So now it's on the upper side of the tubing, and now I pull hard on the thread, make sure it sits where I want it to, like that. When you use a material like the flash, it can be a very slim and straight material, but I want my flies still to have some volume and a drop form. And to help me do that, I divide the wing in two. So now I'm gonna try to maybe take half of it and fold it back like this. And the other part a little bit too much. Yeah, like this. So I leave this, just put a little bit of liquid on here so it won't move anywhere else. And then I pull it quite hard back, put on the thread, make sure it doesn't go down on the side again. So it sits where I want it to. Then I take a strand of this Mirage flash. It can be very, very nice as well. And I just tie this in between the two wings. Like a little V, like this. Fold it back on the other side, like that. I trim these afterwards. And now, just want to put a little bit of super glue in here as well. And I have to be very careful with this because I have a lot of flash here that I don't want to put a lot of glue on. So to make it a little bit easier, just put a little bit of glue on my thread. Then I can control it, then I don't get glue everywhere else. And then just a few turns with this to make sure it sits where I want it to. Just like that. Then I take my second haggle, the red one. I try to pick one that is a little bit bigger than the first one, so I get a nice taper on the hackles as well. And I'm gonna put this on in between the two wings, the wing that I separated right now, to give it a little bit more of a lift. And this one is the red color that matches the flesh color really nice. Pull out a few fibers at first that I used to tie in underneath like this. I pull them back, secure them, and then I go forward with the thread a little bit because I need to leave some space for the haggle. Pull down the fibers, and then I turn the haggle on the point where I tied in the first part of the overwing. Like this. Yes. Now Now I have my two hackles and I have my overwing almost in place. And I'm gonna fold the rest of it back like I did on the first half of it as well. Tie it down, make sure it won't go down on the sides too much. I want it wide and broad, but I don't want it to fall down on one side alone. So I have to make sure that it sits nicely. Seems like it does really good now. And again, just a little bit of super glue on the point here where I tied it in, so it won't go anywhere. Now I take the last hackle and I take a black one. This is also the biggest one. I'm gonna make this as a front hackle. It has the longest fibers. Which will give this nice finishing touch to the fly. I tie these in underneath like this, fold it back. Then I'm gonna put the black hackle on with a few nice turns. Like this. To build up the head, as you saw, I just pulled back the stem of the hackle and tied it in again, like reverse style, so it won't go anywhere. You can do that if you have a thin stem, like I do on this one. And now I just have to finish the fly. Even though it's a modern synthetic fly, I still like to use a jungle cock feather on the side, just for that nice finishing touch. Put the feathers on top of each other to make sure the length is the same. Like this. Checking out the length of the feather is the same. I pull back the jungle cock stem here and tie it in. And make a nice orange head on my fly. Then I finish off with a little knot like this. cut off the thread. And then I take away Now I can pull out the fly and check out if I have the strands of flesh sitting where I want them to. I tied in a few of these mirage fibers that I know is quite long, so I just cut them a little bit so they fit the rest of the fly. And now I have a nicely tapered Flashwing that will swim really, really good in fast water and slow water, and really good fly for early season fishing. But I use it in all different sizes, from small 5 centimeters up to very big ones, because it's easy to fish and it's easy to cast, even if it's a really big one. Yes, I can just turn it a little bit here so you can see how it looks from all angles. And if I want a shorter fly, I can just, I'm not going to do that now, but I could taper the wing a few centimeters shorter if I thought that I maybe had done a little bit too long a wing. But I like a long, slim wing that swims really good in the current. So this is the Flashwing in the way that I tie it.